Perfect. Security Plus, I am also certified into that. There is CH, then Cloud, AWS Cloud Practitioner, AWS Solution Architect, AWS Security Specialty, AWS Machine Learning, Azure 900. Okay, so these are the certification that I currently hold, and I have all more than 3+ years of an experience into this particular field of cybersecurity and cloud. So let's move ahead. This is about the organization InfosecTrain. It was established in 2016, and we provide our services in multiple domains, from pen testing to the cloud, right? And cloud, we have multiple vendors like the AWS, Azure, GCP. We provide our services into that particular part as well. Training, as well as, if you want to do the auditing or you want bug bounty, those kind of thing as well, we perform that as well, issues, right? And these are the endorsement, and these are the different trusted clients we have in place. Okay, so this is the agenda for today. Today we are going to discuss about defensive security and its significance. We are going to talk about. Then we are going to talk about defense in depth. Very important concept we have in place in today's world. Absolutely for sure, each and every organization implement this defense in depth for sure. Then we have, you know, different type of threat. We will discuss that as well. Then we will talk about risk and type of risk and what is a risk assessment is called, and effective managing strategies, what we can go, right. And then we are going to do what we are going to do a interactive Q&A session, fine, where I will be providing you 5 questions, and those questions will be based completely upon the things that we have learned today, fine. That's the thing we have in place. Okay, at the end of it could be kind of a revision purpose, and most of the 5 questions that I will be providing you would be in MCQ based, fine. That kind of thing, so you will be getting a good practice for the concepts as well, fine. Okay, that's great. Perfect, so let's get started, right? So, introduction to the defensive security and its significance. The first thing that is come is what is actually a security. Like, if you want to jump into the defensive security, if I just go back one slide back, right, and let's talk about defensive security, I would just take a step back and think about, okay, before coming into the offensive security and defensive security, the first thing that I'm truly curious about, what is actually a security, boss? Right, then only you have this multiple branches of security, defensive security, offensive security, and plenty other kinds of security you have, right? But what is actually a security? Security means to protect something. When we talk about cyber security, we are protecting something. When we are going to talk about information security, we are protecting a kind of an information. Correct. So whenever you say security, it means we are protecting something. Okay, that's what actually a security is. And how do you achieve a security? You have multiple methods for that. You have encryption, right? I will encrypt the information. Let's say, for example, I have a hard disk, fine, and I want to secure that hard disk, right? Okay, and I want to make it much more secure so that no particular person in my particular office or my house or anyone can go and just attach that particular hard disk to his particular laptop and extract the content. So what I do, I in order to secure my pen drive or my hard disk, I encrypt it, right? So there are multiple tools, multiple ways, multiple methodologies, and multiple ways through which you can achieve security. But security means encrypting your data, protecting your information, right? In whichever state it is. If like you are very familiar about the different stages of data we have in place, right? There are 3 stages of data. No matter in which stage your data is, you're protecting the data. That is what a security is, fine. Okay, perfect. Now, let's talk about the significance of security. Why is security such an issue? Fine. Why there is a whole this world of cyber security? Again, security of cyber, right? So, what is actually that is going to, I'm going to really break it down for you. What the cyber security is actually means, and information security, right? Why this is such a booming industry, right? And like why this is so important as well. So that's what we are going to discuss now: the significance, the importance of security, whether it's information security or cyber security, any kind of security that you have, right? What is the importance of that? That's what significance means, the importance, why this is so important, right? There can be plenty of reason we have in place. First of all is protection from a threat. Fine. If you like, for example, one of the basic reason why, what's the importance of security? Protection of a threat. Fine. If there's an hacker or some malicious person is there and I want to protect my data, I give you an example of a hard disk in place. Fine. Just give me a minute, let me take a pen. Okay, right? So if there is a hacker, right, there's a hacker and I want to protect my data from this particular hacker in place. So what I need security. And how I will achieve security? Through encryption, through hacking, through steganography. Those are the, and plenty of, countless, plenty options you have if you want to achieve the security, plenty of them, right? So what is one of the important significance of security is to protect from threats, from particularly hackers. Threat means the hacker, someone who can damage your particular infrastructure, your asset. That is called a threat. Fine. Then is to protect the confidentiality. What did that means? Why? What's the significance of security? One another one is confidentiality. Importance of security to protect the confidentiality. What it means? Let's say, for example, this particular person is there, and these two people are communicating with each other. He's sending some sort of a message, he's replying back, and he's again sending, and this kind of communication between two individual or a group of people is going on. Fine. So what I need is that the information that I'm sending to my friend or my family member, I do not want any other third party or any other person, even the application by itself, to see what I'm sending. Let's say, for example, WhatsApp. Okay. So if I'm sending you hello, any one of you, fine. I'm saying, let's say, for example, Vivek, I'm sending hello message to Vivek. I only want to Vivek to see that what I have sent it. I does not want any other participant, any other person to see what the information is. That is confidentiality. Only authorized people should have access to the information. No one outside of should not have it, right? That's called confidential people. Vivek is authorized, I'm authorized, and I'm sending my correct information to Vivek, and Vivek is replying back to me, and I'm again replying him, and this kind of conversation is going on. But other than Vivek and me, no one else outside of this particular two people could not access it. It's confidentiality. And how you will, so that's also achieved, right, by security. Okay. Then we have integrity, right? So that no unauthorized modification could be done into the data, right? Then we have availability. So those kind of things we achieve. The importance of security is we get confidentiality from security, we get integrity from security, we get availability. Our data is not hacked by the hackers. Even if, let's say, for example, this particular system is from which I'm taking the session, it is secure. Why? Okay, because I have encrypted. That is a very important tool we have in place in the Windows, which is called by the name of BitLocker. Okay, I have used a BitLocker and encrypted my system with it. Even if the hacker, someone gets an access to my particular system in place or my hard disk SSD, he's never going to extract what the information, files, folders, personal files in a folder, or my um, multiple the files that I have in place. He will never able to extract that kind of thing in place. Fine. That's what we have in place, the significance of security. Fine. Okay. Then let's talk about information security. Two terms we are going to definitely for sure are you are going to see face in the field of cybersecurity: information security, and another one in place which is called cybersecurity. So when it comes to the information security means, to protect, to secure, right? And information security means any kind of information that you have in place, you are securing that information. Okay, that could the information, the information can be in any sort of state, right? It could be in digital format. Fine. It could be in physical format like papers, like most of the time if you have seen that we have A4 size paper, right? And in that all things are written that are also considered important. If you have your property papers that are written in the A4 size paper, right? Or any kind of a judgment passed by the court, honorable courts, right? By the district court, supreme court, the high court, definitely for sure they are printed in mostly in like a paper. That's kind of physical evidence you have in place. So in information security we talk about protecting data in any state, whether in a physical, whether it's written on a paper, right? That is also we have to protect. Whether the data is present in your hard disk, that is also I have to protect. If the data is present in the server, that is also I have to protect. So data present in any state, I am going to protect it for sure. That we talk about information security. Fine. In information security, we protect the data of all kinds. Fine. The physical data, the digital data, the data that has been transferred from one computer to another one, the data that is present in the hard disk, data present in the servers, every piece of it information, right? We are going to protect that thing. Okay, that is called the information security. Protecting any kind of a data in place. Then comes the cybersecurity, right? Cybersecurity means that in this we only talk about protecting the digital data. Fine. We do not talk about all the data. In cybersecurity, you only talk about the digital data that you have in place. Fine. That's a major difference between information security and cybersecurity. In information security, you protect every piece of data, every kind of a data that you have in place. The data that is written on a piece of a blank piece of a paper, that you have to also protect from a hacker, from unauthorized person. You have to secure it, make sure that no unauthorized person, no unauthorized employee should have an access to it, that kind of thing. But in cybersecurity, you only focus upon the digital data. That's it. So from now onwards, anytime you see about cybersecurity, you should be absolutely aware about that in cybersecurity, we only talk about the digital data in place, right? If there is a digital data, it is comes under the cyber security. Okay, and information security is a umbrella term. It's a big umbrella, huge umbrella term of information security, this is. And one of the component of the information security is cyber security. Okay, so cyber security comes under the information security. Fine, that's we have in place. Okay, now let's talk about securing information through defense in depth. So what is actually a defense in depth, right? This is the kind of thing we have in place in certain organizations. We practice it a lot. Fine, when I have by myself go to multiple organizations, I see, and I personally recommend this kind of thing, defense in depth, to multiple vendors, right? Multiple organizations, that you should practice this approach. So what is, or I would say, practice this strategy, defense in depth. It's very, very important. Okay, so what is actually a defense in depth? Okay, so what I say is that you have multiple layers. You have a data and you're protecting it from the threat or the hackers in place. Fine. Okay, so if there is a data, this red dot you can see is a very crucial data, right? Very, very crucial data. Fine. And it, you have to protect this data at any cost. It's a very sensitive data that it should not be leaked to the public. Fine. And at any case should not be captured or stolen by some hackers in place. So I need to protect this data, so I will create multiple layers around it. Fine, multiple layers around this particular data to protect this one, right? In short, in summary, this is what defense in depth means. If I just draw it once again, just give me a minute. This is the layer 3, and it can go on and on and on, right? Definitely, for sure, it will be pretty expensive as you start creating multiple layers. For sure, it would be pretty expensive, for sure. But these green circles that you're seeing, that these are the different layers we have in place around this. which is the data that you have in place. This is the data. This red dot that you see is the data, and we have to protect it at any cost. That is what we talk about defense in depth. Fine. Okay, so what it means, let's say for example, if I just give you another example of it. Let's say for example, there is firewall we have in place, right? This is firewall. In multiple organizations, I have seen that nowadays they use two firewalls in place. This is F1 firewall one in place. Hackers come inside it and hackers want to hack inside it, or hacker wants to go inside the network. It filters the packet. Okay, so that's the thing we have in place. So I have, if this hacker is there and he has some kind of a malicious, so, so that's the firewall we have in place. Now the interesting thing we have is, if this is a firewall and this is a particular person with some malicious packet he's sending to your particular target, the firewall is going to filter it out. There are multiple rules you can set up inside the firewall. Like what are the rules? Like headers, you can set it up, IP address, source IP address, destination IP address, and plenty of things you can set it up right there. So this is the firewall, and this is the traffic that is going to come. This is malicious. The firewall sees it and drops it out. Okay, so that's worked. The firewall really worked in this particular scenario. But let's say for example, hypothetically, what is going to happen is that hackers nowadays are becoming smart as well. They are able to bypass this firewall. I do not want this scenario in my organization. Trust me, you cannot rely on single instrument to protect your piece of data. I cannot keep my sensitive data just on the hand of one single firewall. Fine. So what I will do, I will deploy multiple firewalls. Okay, this could be firewall 1, this could be firewall 2. Okay, and in some very rare but some organization I have seen that they have deployed firewall 3. So and they are absolutely configured in different rules are set in each and every firewall. Okay, so if even if the attacker somehow is able to bypass this firewall, he will be restricted and scrutinized. The traffic would be scrutinized in this layer, this firewall. If he somehow is able to bypass this, then it's scrutinized at this level, right? So this layer, like this only, in defense in depth, we create multiple layers. So if someone physically wants to enter the organization, or a traffic through a network wants to enter the server, he has to pass through multiple checks, multiple firewalls, you can say. Okay, multiple these tools, instruments. Okay, filtration process in place. That's called defense in depth. You have multiple layers in place. Right, that is called defense in depth. When you create multiple layers, this is the data. You create layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, layer 5, right? You have multiple layers in layer. Okay, that's the thing we have in place. So this is called defense in depth. If this layer fails, no problem, this is still intact, it will still protected. If this fail, this is there. If this fail, another layer is there, right? So my whole objective is that to protect the data. Fine. But remember, if you have multiple layers in place, it will be pretty expensive to manage that thing, that architecture. Okay, so you have to keep that thing in mind as well when establishing defense in depth in your respective organization, that there are limitations. It doesn't mean that in your organization you are going to set up multiple firewalls, okay, or multiple security parameters. Again, it is going to be for sure expensive for your organization to configure as well as to troubleshoot and maintain. If there is something problem arrive into it, then you have to need to have a very dedicated team to handle that kind of an issue in place. Okay, so it would be a very costly approach, right? As the layer increases, the complexity for you increases as well. Your security increases a lot, but the complexity increases as well, and it becomes much more difficult for you as an individual or a team to handle that kind of a stuff in place. Okay, that's called defense in depth. Now let's talk about exploring various type of cyber threats we have in place. Okay, so before going into that particular part, I want to just focus you guys into something which is called by the name of threat. Threat means any particular thing, okay, right, a person or a computer program or anything that can degrade the value of your asset. Asset means anything that hold any kind of a value in your respective organization, right? Your servers, your software engineers, your people that are working, they all are your asset, right? So anything that degrades the value of your asset is called the threat. Okay, so let's say for example, if there is a software program and that software program is installed in your server, and actual cost of your server was 10 lakh Indian rupees, fine, and now what really happens is that it is degraded, okay, due to that particular installation of the software, or there is a hacking attempt, something happens, right? An attack happens, a cyber attack happens to a particular server, and from 10 lakh rupees it degrades to 5 to 6 lakh because multiple components are fried, they are not working properly, they are malfunctioning. So now the value of that particular server has degraded from 10 lakh rupees to 5 lakh rupees or even below that. That is called threat, anything that degrades the value of your asset. So if you want to find out the threat, you first of all need to find out what's the asset you have in your organization. Okay, what are the assets? The people, right, in your working your organization in different department, they are the assets. That laptop, the computers you have in place, the firewalls, and all the components are your asset. And anything that degrades the value or diminishes the value of your particular asset, that is called the threat. So let's talk about different kind of threats that you can face in the field of cybersecurity. Fine. Okay, so first is social engineering. Social engineering is a type of attack, guys. In this, it's kind of a threat in cybersecurity. And what the social engineering means is that it is manipulating a person. Okay, so just if I just tell you, have you guys, any one of you, have ever received a message in a WhatsApp or Telegram group, or like SMS, anywhere, that click onto this particular link, you will be, or you have won a lottery, right? And 5 lakh, 10 lakh, 50,000, or this much millions of dollars you have earned in a lottery, right? And it was organized by the WhatsApp, and you are lucky customer, and this contact to this particular person, and you will be getting your reward back, right? Have you anyone ever got those kind of a messages that said that you have, or ma'am, that you have won a lottery? Correct. That is a perfect example of social engineering. In social engineering, what we have is that, right? In social engineering, we manipulate that particular person, fine, and we manipulate the particular person in a such a way that he will be doing all those things which I want him to do. Let's say, for example, if I just give you one of my real life example as well, I would say they have multiple principles, they have multiple ways through which they manipulate the people. One is the weaknesses, right? Another one is called urgency. There could be authority as well. If I just give you an example, one of my friend got a call from a police station, right? Like the part of the India that where I am right now, we have very strict laws against. Okay, so let's say for example, in part of the India that I am right now, they have very strict regulations towards overspeeding. And one of my friend recently, he got a call that, I'm this police officer and I'm talking from this police stations, and there is an FIR against you that you were overspeeding. Okay, and now you have two options left. Either I come or visit your house, arrest you publicly, right, in front of your neighbors, all family members, right, and it would be very humiliating for you. Or what you can do is that giving you a number, right, right now, send me 5,000, 50,000 rupees, right? And because he does not want to face that shame, urgently he sent it without a second thought that this could be absolutely a scam, right? And it was. He sent the money, and definitely for sure he was, then he came to know after a few times that this was completely a scam, right? That particular person who was talking, who was pretending, impersonating to be someone else, like a police officer, he was actually not that. That's what we have in place. That's our One of the attack in social engineering, where someone pretends to be someone else, that you can receive a call from your bank, right? The particular person who is behind the call, he could be pretending that he is talking from your respective bank, where you have your bank account, you have savings, right? And then it will be talking about that, your account is going to be seized within this minutes, right? And those are the things we have in place. If you do not act swiftly, the account would be seized and you are going to be put sorry uh, then definitely for sure your account would be seized and all of your saving, your hard earned money would be gone. So that's we have in place. Fine. And people really falls into this kind of a trap in place. Fine. So that comes under the social engineering. In social engineering, impersonation is one thing, then there is dumpster diving that comes under, then there's tailgating, right? Multiple attacks we have under social engineering. That is something which is called shoulder surfing. If I just give you an example of a shoulder surfing, that are subcategories of social engineering. Okay, social engineering by itself is, I would say, it will take, it's a huge topic in itself. Fine. Okay, so if I just give you one of the example, one of the attack that comes under social engineering, which is called by the name of shoulder surfing. Social engineering comes under shoulder surfing. Then shoulder surfing, what really happens is that if we have visited ATM, right? An ATM, we to withdraw the card, you are just, swiping your particular card and entering the pin. I am standing just behind you and I'm seeing what is the particular pin that you are typing. Or if you, let's say, for example, if you are making a transaction through the UPI and you enter that 4-digit code that you have in place, I'm just standing behind you and through your shoulder, I'm just peeping what you're actually typing in their particular mobile phone in place, right? That is what's called shoulder surfing. Fine. That also comes to the social engineering part. Okay. So that's what. So that's also one of the threat we have in place. Then comes the virus, very famous one, right? When I was not aware about these technical terms about virus, what the virus means, but the only thing I was concerned about was, I never heard about any kind of thing. This, like today I'm in cybersecurity, okay, and I hear a word like worms, okay. There are trojans, right? There are rootkits, there are ransomwares. Every day there are nine kind of ransomware is being attacking some organization, right? That kind of things. But when I was a kid, I have absolutely no idea about these different threats that are present: the ransomware, the crypto malware, and malwares, right? And what are worms and all these kind of things. I was only concerned, I was the only thing that I knew was dangerous to my computer was the virus. I used to use it a lot, right? The virus. And I think most of the people do, because they do truly do not understand what a virus is, what's its limitation and the boundary is, what its unique property it shows, and what's make it different from other threats. Okay, so let's talk about a virus a bit. The more major characteristic property of a virus, guys, is that virus is it's kind of a malicious program, right? It's a malware, it's a kind of a malicious program. It's a program which it's programmed in such a way it is going to harm your particular system in place. It's either going to modify a file, delete your file, or corrupt it out. Okay, but what is the characteristic property of the virus in place? That kind, right? Okay. Yeah, man, correct. Okay. So in virus, what really happens is that virus cannot be transmitted from one system to another one. That is the basic characteristic of the virus. Let's say, for example, I visited a particular torrent website, okay, and I'm very fond of playing video games. Okay, so let's say, for example, there is a game which is by the name of God of War Ragnarok. I'm absolutely fan of that particular game, so I want to download it in free of cost, right? I just go to a torrent website and I download that particular game in place. And now what really happens is that the game gets downloaded, but side by side a virus also gets downloaded. Now I'm in big trouble. Okay, so my system, my laptop is being infected by a virus. Okay, but the interesting thing about the virus, the property, the unique property which is exactly shown by a virus, is that virus cannot spread from my system to any other system without human interaction. If I just give you an example of it, okay, so now my system has been compromised, right? I have downloaded a game from a torrent website or from a malicious website. Now my system has been compromised, and a virus is just, you know, uh, is there in my system in place. I next day go to my particular office in place, and there I have a Wi-Fi. Fine. I attach to my office Wi-Fi, and through that particular Wi-Fi, multiple systems are already present there. If this is my particular Wi-Fi of my organization, right? This is one system which is already present there. There is another one. Fine. And then I arrive at my office and connect, okay, to the same Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi, the virus is not going to go from my particular system in place to this particular Wi-Fi and or the router, and then going to spread to all these files. That is not the characteristic property of the virus. Okay, virus do not spread from one system to another system, okay, without human interaction. Okay, so how the virus really spread? Let's say for example, my system is compromised. I take a pen drive, and my friend says that, Amit, you know what, that particular game was, you're playing next day was fantastic, boss, can you share with me? I'm good, yeah, absolutely. So I take up my hard disk, my pen drive, my external device. Attach it to my particular infected laptop and copy it there, and then share it with my friend. And when that I'm sharing it, that is how I'm sharing the virus as well. Okay, so you can see that virus is infecting, it has been transmitted from one system to another system in place through human interaction. Without a human interaction, it will never able to go from one system, compromised system, to another system in place. Fine, that's a very unique property we have in place for the virus. It cannot be transmitted from one system to another one without human interaction. Fine. So virus, this is an example of a virus, right? So without human interaction, it cannot be spread from one system in place to another one. Fine. Okay, correct. Now there is another thing we have in place, which is called by the name of worm. Fine. Okay. Now, absolutely, Mohan. Virus, I would say not, Mohan. I would like to, just change your particular definition a little bit. I would say malware with self-propagation capabilities. Okay. So worm is some kind of a malware, right? Malware means malicious software, which is can self-propagate. It can, without human interaction, it can spread from one particular PC to another PC in place. Fine, that's what we have in place. The unique property of a worm is self-replication. If you just give me another example of it, let's say for example, I was telling you about that my system get compromised, right? I downloaded a game or something like that, okay, and my system is now being compromised. This is the worm. Sorry, this is the uh, like the internal network we have in place. This is the router, right? And many of the systems in my organizations are connected to it. Fine, many of the systems are connected to it. Now the interesting thing happens here is in this particular scenario, that these systems are connected to this particular ransomware, sorry, this particular router, is that they can easily communicate and no problem with that. Now I arrive next day, and this particular circle that you're seeing, the red, is infected with the virus, right? Okay. And now what is going to happen is that now the moment I attach it to the public or to my organization Wi-Fi, the virus or the worm particularly, right? It's going to go to this particular router in place, and then it's going to automatically, right, without sharing any file or a folder, automatically that's going to spread to my complete organization. And now my all of the things in my organization is, or I would say all the systems, all the PCs, all the mobile phones which are connected to this particular router in place, they are going to go Okay, Nilesh is saying worms can perform various attacks, including the DOS attack. I would say, Nilesh, your when there is any kind of an attack happens, virus or right attack of a virus or a worm or any kind of an attack, your systems converts into something which is called the bot. Okay, now your system acts like a bot. If let's say, for example, if my this particular system gets compromised either through worm or a virus or a trojan, anything like that, it gets converted into something which is very interesting, which is called by the name of bot. Right, bot means like it is compromised PC is called a boss, and now through that particular bot I will be performing DOS, DDoS, and multiple the kinds of DOS we have in place. Okay, that's right, absolutely with DOS required bot. Okay, right, fine, that's what we have in place. So even if no matter virus, like the worm, even the virus, any kind of a malware that infects your systems, it converts it into something which is called by the name of bot. Okay, there are multiple mediums through which your particular system can be converted into a bot. It could be through virus, there is a virus attack, there is a ransomware attack, there is a malware attack, there could be any kind of an attack, but the end goal is that to make your particular system a bot. In that particular case, what is going to happen is that if make your system, all of your systems a bot, you will be having the physical access, right? But other than that, all the control of the file, the your cameras, your recording, the application, your opening, all these things, I will be handling it out. I can delete your file even if you are the actual owner of that. That's what the bot is all about. So next time you can have an infection through virus, you can have infection through worm, a trojan, or a malware, or ransomware, or crypto malware, all these kind of things, right? Okay, that's what we have in place. Perfect, that's called the worm. The characteristic, a property of a worm is that it is self-replicating. Okay, okay, perfect. Now let's talk about the ransomware, right? And to be very frank with you, the ransomware is the most dangerous kind of malware you guys would ever see. Ransomware. Okay, okay, so what is actually about our ransomware we have in place? So ransomware, it's actually, again, it is a piece of a software we have in place. I would say even a it is a kind of a malware that we have in place, right? A ransomware. But the thing with the ransomware, guys, is that ransomware is, it will, what it will do, let's say for example, hypothetically, this is my system in place from which I'm taking the session. It will attack my system and it will decrypt, encrypt all of the information that I have in my system in place, my files, folders, images, every kind of a piece of a data. It will encrypt it absolutely without any doubt, right? And then it will say, and so that next year when I open my system in place, I will be getting a warning that your system has been compromised. If you want to get an access back, guess this is go to this particular, or send us this much amount of a cryptocurrency in bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency, pay us this much of an amount within this particular duration, otherwise you will never able to get your access to your particular data in back. Okay, perfect. So what I do is that I just completely ignore the message and I go to my computers or any kind of file or folder and open it up. I cannot open it, okay, because it has been encrypted, and now the hackers has the key. Okay, so that's, so now I have two scenarios right now. My system is being compromised, there is a ransomware attack. The unique property of a virus is that it does not spread without human interaction, but the unique property of a worm is it's without human interaction it spread. Okay, again, and the unique property of a ransomware is that the ransomware encrypts your piece of data, and then you have to pay the hacker, in particular in the cryptocurrency, so that they will be providing you the private key, and using that particular private key you will be able to decrypt your particular hard disk and get the data back. Okay, that's a gamble, absolutely gamble. It's not sure a guarantee, it's a completely a gamble that you pay a ransomware to to a hacker, right, or group of hackers, and they are going to provide you some sort of a key. That's a completely a gamble. There has been cases where millions of dollars have been paid to the particular hackers, right, or a group of hackers by government as well, right, because the data that was encrypted was so crucial that they cannot afford it to lose. So they paid the hackers in millions, but still they do not get the keys, and because the transaction is done by the cryptocurrency, and it's next to impossible to track down the cryptocurrency, the transaction that you have in place. So that's it. That's why the hackers use cryptocurrency so much. They always emphasize that you do the transaction in the crypto. They will not accept your checks. They will not accept your cash money, nothing, no bank transaction. They only rely upon your you pay in crypto. There is a thing which is called by the name of ransomware protection, and I really love that particular feature in place. Okay, so what it does is that particular window defender, you go to there and after the session, go to the particular setting in place, right? And in the Windows part, they have the ransomware protection. Just scroll down, you have the ransomware protection, and you enable it out. Okay, so what the ransomware protection does is that the moment you enable it, it will says select the files and a folder that you want to protect. In my particular case, I have selected all the files in a folder: C drive, E drive, F drive, all the drives I have selected, right? All the files and the folders. So what it does is that you have selected a particular file in place. So what it does is that in ransomware protection, let's say for example, it is a kind of a so let's say, for example, this is a ransomware protection. Okay, it's a place inside your particular system where it will not allow any kind of a modification. The modification, whether it's a good modification or whether it's a bad modification, it does not care. Your Windows Defender is going to block or restrict any kind of a modification in place. Let's say, for example, this is ransomware protection that particular we have in place. You have enabled it. Now you have put your Windows C drive into it, right? Now if there is a program which is a legitimate program you have installed by yourself, you're conscious about it, right? You have purchased it from a legitimate vendor. That particular software wants to do some sort of a modification. It wants to create multiple copies, right? It needs that in order to work properly. It's a legitimate software. Still, the ransomware protection would absolutely on its face would deny it from doing it. Okay, that's what we have in place. So ransomware protection is such a good thing that what it does is that do not allow any kind of a modification done to a file if you have selected a particular file inside the ransomware protection. Okay, so if I put a file inside this ransomware protection, this particular safe place, it will deny any kind of a modification to any file which is kept inside the ransomware protection or which has been selected inside the ransomware protection. So I have selected the drives: C drive, E drive, F drive. Okay, so any kind of a modification it does, it will straight away, even though it's legitimate, so I have to disable it first, Amit. That's the only thing I have to do. Okay, so whenever I am installing a legitimate software and it's wants to make some copies, right? So I have to disable it for a moment. It's got installed, and within after that, whether when it's installed, okay, when the installation is complete and it's working perfectly, then what I do is that I just again enable it out, right? So it's if there is a ransomware attack one day, the ransomware would not be able to make any kind of changes to my any of the drive, and it's free of cost. You does not need to pay a single penny for that. But it's kind of a feature after the session. If you have Windows 10 or an 11, it's only present there, Windows Defender. Go there, scroll down, and you will see Windows Defend ransomware protection. Enable it, and you are good to go. Fine. Some softwares it will create a problems. Okay, so be wary about it. Okay, because some softwares I have seen that they constantly need to modify themselves. They're constantly generating the data. Harlan, I'm not aware about the Mac. To be very frank, I'm a Windows guy, boss. Okay. Yeah. Now let's talk about another kind of a threat we have in place, which is called by the name of spyware we have in place, right? Spyware. So what is a spyware? So spyware is also again a kind of a malware we have in place. So what is a spyware does is spy upon you. Let's say for example, anywhere like all of us right nowadays have these laptops, mobile phone as well, right? We are so concerned when we go for a mobile phone, whether you are an Android guy or whether you are a Linux one, right? Or whether you are interested in the kind of iPhones, right? Whichever you are, whenever we go for purchasing any mobile or a laptop, we are so curious about specifications, right? We what is a hard disk, how much of this hard disk read and write speed is, or the SSD is, right? Uh, and what is the version of the or generation of the RAM. Like nowadays there is DDR5, and what kind of speed it is providing. All this kind of thing we have in place. Fine. Okay, perfect. And we are so focused upon about the camera, the pixel it has, and all these things we are so concerned about it. But the interesting thing, guys, we have in place is that we do not think that those cameras, those 64 megapixel camera of your mobile phone or of your system in place, it can be used against you only. Your systems can be compromised, and then your 64 megapixel camera would be live streaming your, live to a hacker. And he can, let's say for example, if someone is changing a cloth or anything, right? The camera is recording, you are not even aware about it, even if you are the actual owner, and it's live streaming it back to the hacker. And now the hacker have your particular recording in place. It will be sending you back, right, that particular a piece of a recording, a copy of it, and then it will be asking you for some sort of a ransom, that if you want to delete or stop me from releasing it online, pay me a p up kind of, a ransomware, a ransom, and I'm going to delete it. Okay, that's kind of thing. So spyware is a kind of a malware that spy upon you. Okay, like what kind of activities you are doing. Not it focuses upon camera. It focuses upon what you are typing, in which particular website you're going. Okay, so let's say for example, if I hack into your particular system in place, right, and I install a spyware, I can absolutely get an idea that at 9 a.m. that this particular person, okay, that this particular recording, sorry, that this particular thing would be like whatever, like 9 a.m. you visited Google, okay, and you log into your Gmail, you entered your particular username, you entered your password. I get that kind of information as well. What kind of keystroke you made, what kind of username and a password that you have entered there. Fine. That is also you can do with the spyware. Right? I install spyware in your system. I can see what you're typing. I can get information that which pages you are going to, right, which links you're clicking, which files or folder you have in place. I can open your camera, I can disable your antivirus, all kind of thing I can do using spyware. Okay, so now let's unpacking the different cyber threat actors we have in place. So let's talk about the different cyber threat actors. So this is the different kind of threat actors means. Okay, just uh, go a little step back. This thing, threat actor. Threat actor means the hackers. In a very slim and layman language, threat actor means a hacker. So we are going to discuss about different kind of threat actors we have in place. Okay, yeah, man, absolutely right. So yeah, so we have white multiple kind of hackers. First of all, let's discuss these three: white, black, gray hat hackers. Okay, so white hat hackers are those individuals who, they are also called white hat hackers, are called the ethical people, right? This one with the white hat hackers, these white hat hackers are the ethical people. They have the ethics, man. They you know they have some ethics in place, okay, and they are good people, right? They will find out a problem in your particular network, and they are going to report it to you or your respective organization, that Amit, that we have find out a vulnerability, a problem in the application, in the website of InfosecTrain. Resolve it as soon as possible. That's called the white hat hacker, a person or hacker with an ethics, right? And he works upon the ethics, right? That's he is a good hacker. He helps us to find out a problem, a loophole, and definitely for sure after finding out the loopholes, what I'm going to do is that I am going to resolve it as soon as possible. Okay, that's the thing. That's called a white hat hacker, and they're good people. And there is a huge demand. Let's say, for example, right, like myself perform auditing and penetration testing as well. But the bug bounty would be also considered under the white hat hackers, right? Because they are individual with good intention in place. At the end of the day, all of the people are, you know, finding out the vulnerabilities. Even the bad hackers are also finding out the vulnerabilities, but the difference arise at the what's the intention behind it. If a good hacker find out a vulnerability, he's going to report to the respective organization. If I find out a vulnerability in Google, I'm going to report it to the Google, that you know what, Google, that there's a vulnerability that I have recently found in your particular application or of your latest version of Android. Look after it, and definitely for sure the I would be paid some sort of an amount for that as well. That's called particularly the bug bounty, right? Okay, so that's what happens in the white hat hacker. White hat hacker individuals with an ethic, he founds a problem, he tells it to the particular individual or the organization and help them as well to resolve it. Okay, that's the thing. Then comes the black hat hackers. Black hat hackers, as the name by itself tells, they are unethical people, right? They are malicious people. They do not have any sort of an ethics. They find out vulnerability in your particular system in place. They are for sure going to eat you up, I would say. They will just completely steal your data, encrypt your information. Like all the hacks that you see in today's world, like there was a ransomware attack, there was a malware attack, right? That all the attacks where people faces loss of you know, properties, damages, right? Their systems fails. That happens due to black hat hackers. They are hackers with some malicious intent. Either they want to, you know, just show their power, their might. They want to take a revenge. But at the end of the day, is being performed by a black hat hacker. They are the bad individuals. They have absolutely, whether it's a white hat hacker, black hat hacker, or a gray hat hacker, those individuals, all of them has a very good understanding of the network, of how the system works, how the applications work, what are the vulnerabilities, what is CVE, CVSS. They have absolutely good idea. But they use this information for doing something bad, right? Malicious things, stealing the data, disrupting the network, disrupting the architecture. Okay, those kind of thing in place. Then comes a very interesting thing. Okay, yeah, I mean, see, in today's world, every organization I'm seeing that they are facing some sort of an attack going on, right? Okay, so that's today's reality, and that's why cybersecurity is going to be such a booming industry in the coming days, right? I would say it's just the start. Like you can think from a perspective. Okay, fine, perfect. Okay, so yeah, so let's come back to the gray hat hacker in place. So in gray hat hacker, what we have in place is that gray hat hacker comes between black hat hacker and white hat hacker. Let's say, for example, I works in InfosecTrain. I am a security guy. I just do the auditing part, take the seminars, do the webinars as well, right? Take the sessions and do the pen testing as well, right? Okay. So before joining this particular session, there is a system that I have already, you know, left for. It is going uh, you know, performing the penetration testing using some tools, right? And it's going to take at least 6 to 7 hours for that particular pen testing to be done, perform fine. Okay, so now what really happens is that, so I'm finding out a vulnerability in the application that I have in place. Okay, fine. Okay, so let's say, for example, so with using some sort of a email address you have registered for this particular session, right? For the infosec train, and that only you will be getting it up. Simple as that. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the black hat hacker, sorry, the gray hat hacker, the gray hat hacker sits in between white hat hacker and a black hat hacker. Like white hat hackers, what he does is that he find out a vulnerability. Okay, and then what he does is that he report it back. Black hat hackers find out a vulnerability, he exploit it, try to steal the information, and that's called the black hat hacker. Gray hat hacker, what he does is that gray hat hackers, it is, he's an opportunistic guy. Based upon the scenario, he performs his job. That's called the gray hat hacker. Fine. That is called the gray hat hacker. Let's say, for example, I'm working in an infosec train. I'm a white hat hacker. I'm a hacker who is going to find out the vulnerability, and then I'm going to report it to the individual or the organization administration that this is a particular thing that is a vulnerability is being present in your particular system in place. Okay, perfect. Now comes the black hat hacker, right? And what I can do is that I found out a vulnerability, okay, and now I want to take a revenge from my organization. Fine. In the day, in the noon time, in the morning, when I'm in the office, what I'm doing is that I am acting as a white hat hacker, okay, but I get to know that there is a vulnerability in my InfosecTrain, and I'm not happy with the organizations. I'm not happy with the politics of what is going on in the office and all this kind of stuff. What I do is that I want to take a revenge. Fine. I take that particular vulnerability at the night when I'm out, or when my shift is over. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to sit, exploit the vulnerability, right? And then steal the data, right? So gray hat hacker is an opportunistic person we have in place. So he can at some time pretend as a white hat hacker, and at some time he will be like a malicious person. Okay, so you can never figure it out. It's very difficult to catch a gray hat hacker, right? He could be an insider person inside an organization who knows all the details about your organization, the network, the operating system you're using, the flaws, everything. So he's helping you in patching it up, but the night exploiting those vulnerabilities or selling it to the third party, or so selling it to the dark web, all this kind of things in place, right? Fine. Okay, so now what we have in place is a suicidal hacker. So suicidal hacker is that particular person is at he's like a suicidal bomber. Like a suicidal bomber is he knows that he's wearing a, you know, a jacket with bomb attached to it, right? And definitely for sure, right, he's going to explode himself, and due to that many people going to left lose their life as well. He's also going to die in that particular scenario. That's what the suicidal bomber is, right? So now, same with suicidal hacker. Suicidal hacker knows the consequences. He knows that if he try to perform a hack over a government organization website or the defense military website, there are consequences that the suicidal hacker is going to face. Okay, what are those? Like he could be tracked, his IP address, his MAC address, those his can be tracked, and he can be sent behind the bars, right? That he was trying to hack into some uh, system or mobile phone of a big politician, right, or someone else, right? So that's the person, but still he takes the risk, right? Even if he knows that the hack he's going to perform is going to be dangerous, the unethical hack, right? Because he has not taken the permission, boss. He's not taken a permission from any legitimate these defense organization or the army, navy, or any kind of thing. He's not taking a permission. Unethical hacking attempt he's making in order to steal the data or to install a virus in the system or their phones. Fine. Okay, that's what we have in place. So, but still he performs those kind of attack. That's called suicidal hacker. A hacker who knows he's doing something wrong, he knows the consequences, but still he goes and move forward and perform or try to perform some kind of an attack in place. That's called the suicidal hacker. Okay, now let's talk about a very interesting thing which is called APT. It stands for Advanced Persistent Threat. APT. Okay, so what is actually an APT is? APT is like a particular person. Fine. Okay, so now let's talk about APT, Advanced Persistent Threat. So in Advanced Persistent Threat, what we have in place is that, yeah, Gautam, if you have any questions, you can just post it up. Okay, so APT, what it does is that these are the so sophisticated hackers, right? What they do is that they sit over your network. They, first of all, A stand for advanced. It means that they use complicated tool to hide themselves. Okay, A stand for advanced. So advanced, what actually advanced means? Advanced means advanced tool to hide themselves. P means persistence. Persistence means for a longer duration of time. The hacker is not there for a day or two. The hacker is there for a month, for 6 months, for a year, or more than that. Okay. and T stands for the threat. Threat means definitely for sure he's compromising your organization, stealing your data, right? That's what he's achieving, right? That's T is there for threat. APT, advanced persistent threat. So it's a very interesting. They use some very sophisticated tools to hide themselves. Okay, yeah, absolutely right. They are, I would say, they are like spy. Like in India, we have the raw, right? And in US, we have that. Yeah, so CIA they have in place, right? They in US they have the CIA. In India, we have the raw, and different organization across the globe has different, spy agencies. So you can say that if Indians raw want to spy on some different organization or different country or enemy country in place, right? Okay, so they will be like acting like an APT. Let's say for example there is a spy, right, in India, and he gets a lead that there is some foreign country is there, and he's trying to planning some kind of an attack over India, right? So he will be like acting like an APT. What he will going to do? Yeah, absolutely, Pegasus virus, right, Gautam? That could also be said as an APT. So what he will do, he will be using complex softwares. He will be going inside this you know the network of those government agencies of the foreign country where where he thinks that they can attack us. He will be hiding there in their network for a longer duration of time. He can see what kind of messages are being sent. He will scan through them. He will collect that thing. Okay, and he will be sitting there for a longer duration of time. Okay, and he's a threat because definitely at the end of the day he's stealing information, right? Because even that kind of stealing he is doing, he's definitely for sure would be beneficial for our country, right? That's the thing. Okay, so that's called APT, advanced persistent threat. And to be very frank, this is not easy to catch, this APT part. Fine. So let's say, for example, the best example, if I tell you, there is a organization which is called by the name of SolarWind. Okay, that's an organization we have in place, and that organization client, the organization is so big, his client was US federal government, or like we have the in India we have the central government. So they in US they call it the federal government. So they have the federal government is the client of SolarWind, as well as the Microsoft. This such a big organization is also a kind of client of that particular organization, SolarWind. Okay, perfect. Now the thing arrive is that SolarWind gets compromised, and the attacker are sitting over their network for a duration of, I think, a 9 or 10 month they were sitting. It means that all these clients, whatever communication they are doing, whatever the files they are sharing, all are being scanned and captured, and like they are seen by the hackers sitting over this network. Then there was some third party. Okay, I just forgot the name of that organization. There was some third party. They looked and they told to the SolarWind higher authorities, senior executives, that it's something, boss, something looks malicious in your particular traffic. Look through it. We suspect that there is something going wrong in your particular networks, in your servers, right? It looks suspicious. They do some thorough investigation, the auditing, and they get to know that there was a hacker sitting over their network for at least 8 to 9 months. Now, it was a very drastic thing for them, right? So it could be present as well. It's very difficult to catch. Trust me, even your normal antivirus could fail to catch an APT. They use very, very sophisticated tools, right? And most of the time they are backed by the governments, right? That's why because this advanced tool needs some really good R&D, research and development, and that can only be established when you have a huge funding. And the one of the biggest funding is being provided by the government. So when one government want to spy on another government, the best thing is the APT. Now let's talk about the hacktivist we have in place. Fine. Okay, hacktivist is that group of an activist. Okay, so first of all, guys, have you remember can you recall the particular image that you see, this mask? This is the mask of the anonymous. Okay, right? And anonymous is a hacktivist. So if you you guys are aware about activists, right? You can say that they are a group of a malicious user, right? It completely depends upon on which side you are. Okay, so that's kind of thing we have in place. Okay, so activist, first of all you need to understand the activist in place. Okay, okay, right. So now what really happens is that the activist, they have their own agenda, their political agenda, the social agenda they have in place, right? They write books, they write poems, they write articles, they raise concerns toward their government in whichever the part of the country they are in, whether it's state government, central government, whatever it is, right? It's good, perfect, fine, okay. But the hacktivist take that particular activism to the next level, okay. So what the hacktivists are, these are the hackers with some ideological differences. They have some political ideology, right? They have some social changes, like they have the activism, but they perform it through a hack. Let's say, for example, there are a group of a hacker and they want to perform some kind of a changes. They want the government, whichever the part of the government we are talking about, any kind of government across the world, they want the government to listen to them and perform a change. If the government does not perform these things, they are going to shut down all the bank servers, and the organization of the government and citizens are going to face huge losses. So that is also an act of hacktivist when they have an agenda, particularly that is a political agenda, right? Most of the time, that is called. Now let's talk about the state-sponsored hacker, guardian of peace. This is the group of hacker, right, which is funded by North Korean government. Okay, and any country across the globe, they whenever they raise their voice, they're concerned towards North Korea regime, the way they are treating their people, right? They're creating the nuclear weapons and all this kind of stuff, right? Whenever any sort of a country, raises this particular concern in place, so what's going to happen is that they definitely, for sure, there is one of the famous group they have in place, which is called by the name of Guardian of Peace, and that particular Guardian of Peace is going to go behind you. They are going to track you down. They're going to, do a DOS attack and a DDoS attack. All this kind of an attack they are going to perform over your particular network, and your organization, whether it's public or corporate or a government organization, you are going to face a lot of issues due to that. If I just say, in the US particularly, most of the time the origin of the hack is being from particularly North Korea, right? Okay, Guardian of Peace. Yep, Amit, correct. Guardian of Peace, right? So they are state-sponsored hackers, right? Because see, to be very frank with you, in the hacking field, if you want to hack into someone's else system, using a virus, using a brute force attack, right? There's kind of an attack we have in place, a brute force attack, or anything like that, it's pretty expensive. You need some good computers with some good configuration in place. Attack is there, which is called by the name of brute force attack. So what generally happens in a brute force attack is that in a brute force attack, you will, uh, you will the computer try to guess the combination of the hack, or the password. Okay, and it could be good thing, but if the thing is that your system should be so powerful to guess it out. If, let's say, for example, if you're using i9 12th generation, okay, and to be very frank with you, within few days the computer would be able to guess the password, or they will able to crack the password. Okay, but definitely for sure it would be a very expensive machine. Fine, that is the thing. So if there is a sophisticated attack happens in the world, definitely for sure there is a possibility that that is being orchestrated, funded by the state government. Definitely for sure the state government is never going to, North Korea, dictator Kim Jong Un is never going to accept that, okay, we perform an attack over the, that US government, right? All this kind of thing. We compromise many people's systems, we steal their identity, we perform fraud. They're never going to accept it, right? No government accept that. Fine. If I just give you another example of it, there's another thing, another kind of a virus we have in place, a kind of a, uh, yeah, the antivirus we have in place, right, which is called by the name of Pegasus, right? Okay, Pegasus, it was created by a NSA group in Israel. Fine. Now the thing is that the NSA group claims that that particular piece of a virus, it is for the good. It helps the government to spy upon the bad people. Fine. Okay, perfect. So, but there is another different, some disadvantage to it. Some opposition leader says that they have been targeted by this Pegasus virus. So that's kind of thing. But remember, this Pegasus virus hacks into a system and you has absolutely no idea that it is in your system. Any call you make, it listens to that. Any WhatsApp messages you share, it's look into it as well. Messages, anything you use, it. So that's the thing. So definitely, for sure, if that kind of things you have in place, that kind of sophisticated tool the Pegasus virus was, you need a good funding for that, okay, from the government. Okay, that's the thing. So that all those hackers which are funded by the government, or right, that is called the state sponsored hackers. Fine. The best example I've given you is the Guardian of Peace. They belongs to North Korea. They perform the attacks. North Korean government funds them, spends millions of dollars into upgrading their system, right? Machinery and all this kind of thing, teaching, upskilling their particular people in this, right? Now comes the script kiddies. Script kiddie is kind of a particular person who is absolutely new to the field of hacking, right? Okay, yeah. So what is a script kiddies? See, in script kiddies are those individuals in place which have absolutely no idea what actually is hack, what is a vulnerability, what is CVE, what is CVSS, these terminologies, they have absolutely no idea. That's why I've just put a picture of a boy, a kid, right, who would be hardly 10 years old, and he is sitting over a laptop and he's absolutely no idea what's going happening. Like way back, I remember that when I was like in college and we were having this fancy, you know, yeah, Gautam, you can say that. Absolutely correct. Okay, like we were having this kind of delusion that if I would or any of my friend would challenge me that Amit, till tomorrow I will be hacking a Facebook account. I would say that okay, okay, boss, go ahead, right? And then what he will be doing is that the best practice. He has absolutely no idea about the computers. He do not understand how the RAM works, how the HTTP, what the HTTP protocols are, what are the ports of the protocols. He has absolutely no idea about it. But what he does is that he goes to the YouTube or to the Google and just type how to hack the Facebook. And there were some steps and he will try to follow them. Okay, a random guess. So that's what he is trying to do. That's called the script kiddies. Script kiddies are the kids. The kiddie means the kids. And they use the predefined tool or the script, right, which are lying over the internet. They just copy, cut, copy, paste, and they try to hack into someone's systems. Okay, they try their luck. That's called the script kiddies. They have absolute, even if, let's say for example, if they somehow hack into someone's systems, they have absolutely no idea how was that even possible. They just copied and pasted, that's it. Okay, fine. That's what we have in place. Now let's talk about another kind of an hacker we have in place, which is called by the name of malicious hacker, or I would say malicious insider. Malicious insider, okay, is that particular person who is working inside your organization but has some malicious insight, right? Okay, that's called the malicious insider. Insider means a particular employee working in, yeah, absolutely, inside a thread, right? Okay, so malicious insider is that kind of a threat you have in place who is working inside the organization, not happy with the salary, with the the relation between his teammates and his manager is not good. He's a disgruntled employee, right? He's not happy with the organization. He wants to take a revenge. He has been approached by the competitor of the organization that if you try to steal the information from our organization and then within a few days you switch back to our organization, we will be providing you a lot of money, okay, a good raise, and all these things we will be doing it well, right? So that's what a malicious insider does. It is an employee working inside an organization, stealing the critical information and then supplying back or supplying it to someone, right? Or to the dark web, publishing it to the dark web. And there could be multiple reasons why a particular normal, genuine employee turned into a malicious insider. Fine. There could be plenty of reason due to that. They're like he's not happy with the organization. Um, like he's been blackmailed, right? Okay, plenty of things could be the reason behind it. And okay, so this is a reality, right? There are cases where have been that there anyone could be converted into a malicious insider. Okay, but the thing is that how to catch, let's say for example, if I'm a security guy and now our organization approaches me that Amit, what we should do, that how we can catch a disgruntled employee, or I would say a malicious insider. There are multiple things you can do, right? So like there's something which is called, uh, rotation policy, right? A particular person is working inside a particular project, right? Or a field. Let's say for example there is a Java developer, okay, and he's working for 6 to 10 months inside the organization. Then after 6 to 10 months you can say that, okay, boss, we have a job rotation policy in our organization. Now you take care of the servers. Okay, so now he will be going from this particular, he will be leaving all the projects of Java and all these things, and you will be sending it to the Linux part, right? And he is looking after the servers. So in the back end you can do the monitoring, or you can do mandatory leave. That is also a thing we have in place. Fine. In infosec also we have this thing of mandatory leave. So what it happens is that once a month, at some point in time, one of the employee would be sent for a leave for a 2 or 3 days, right? Constantly paid leaves, they are paid leave. Okay, many times people see that that's, it's a paid leave, but the reason behind those paid leaves for a duration of 1 week or 2 week is that in the back end auditing is done, right? Which, like, is there any kind of contact he was making with the competitor organization, right? All these kind of things, right? So auditing is done. So these things, plenty of things like mandatory leave, job rotation. Okay, so now we are going to talk about risk assessment and effective management strategies that we have in place. Let's talk about them. Okay, perfect. So first is, what is actually a risk that we have, right? Risk is, guys, a very important thing, a very, very important thing, right? But before going to the risk part, guys, in the chat, I'm sharing my LinkedIn profile where you can connect with me, okay, and share your views. And I keep on posting up stuff in LinkedIn profile. You can connect me there as well. Fine, it's present in the chat. Okay, so now let's come back to the topic. What is a risk? So risk is something, you know the probability that something can go wrong. That is what an actually a risk is. The probability that something can go wrong. Fine. So risk can be low, it can be high, it can be medium, right? And definitely for sure we calculate the risk, right? Inside the organizations, we have separate team for this thing, right? For managing the risk, right? That's kind of thing we have in place. So we calculate the ring. We have different kind of methodologies, different kind of methods for calculating the risk. And based upon those calculations, those figures, numbers, we make our decision. Now let's talk about the type of risk that we have in place. Fine. There are plenty of different kind of risk, type of risk we will be facing it up, right? First one, I would say there is something which is called by the name of external risk, right? Any, right, the possibility, the probability that something can go wrong, that is called a risk, right? So let's talk about the different kind of risk that we have in place, right? And to be very frank, this risk part is very important. Right, and every organization, if it's a very good organization like the Apple, Microsoft, or some big organization, they are very serious about their particular, cybersecurity. Definitely for sure they will be having a risk team, right? And risk team handles this risk. What are they figure out what are the possibility that something can go wrong, and then they will be building the architecture all around it, right? That's what we have in the risk part. Okay, so now let's talk about type of risk, right? First one, I would say the external type risk that is being provided from external entities. Okay, and right, whenever some external entity kind of possess any kind of a risk to your organization or to your asset, is called the external risk we have in place. And the internal risk is that, let's say for example, the best example of an internal risk would be a disgruntled employee, right? Definitely for sure he can leak the information. If there's an information that you have in place, he can steal the information, right? He can encrypt the information, like like how the ransomware really works. So like normally like a ransomware, he will be encrypting a piece of an information that is also there, right? So it's called internal risk we have in place. Okay, the internal fire that can happen inside the organization, the short circuit that's come, the internal risk. Now, there are some other different kind of risk that also there present, which is called the qualitative risk, right? The different kind of assessment, I would say, they are called the qualitative risk assessment, right? Assessing the risk, right? And they're called the quantitative risk assessment. Qualitative risk assessment and qualitative risk assessment. Fine. Very, very important thing we have in place. Okay. Something which is called now in assessing the risk, we have, in order to assess the risk, we have two things which is called quantitative risk assessment, and another one is called qualitative risk assessment. Fine. Okay, so let's talk about them one by one. In in quantitative risk assessment, what we do is that in quantitative risk assessment we talk about the numbers, right? Okay, it's much more focused about the numbers that we have in place. Let's say for example, if it is give you a qualitative risk assessment example of it, let's say for example currently you go and purchase a server, right? And the cost of a server is, let's say for example, 10 lakh rupees, right? And 10 lakh rupees you purchase a server which very basic configuration. Okay, perfectly fine. Now what really happens is that there is a cyber attack happens, and some of the hard disk or some of the component completely fails out. They do, or they cannot be repaired. Okay, they are damaged, right, beyond repair. Okay, that's an extent of the damages. So now what really happens is that the value of that particular server is just fallen from 10 lakh rupees to 6 to 5 to 4 lakh rupees. It has degraded, right? Okay, those kind of things we have in place. So if that's a scenario in my organization, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to perform something which is called qualitative risk assessment. I'm going to analyze the risk, right? In assessing the risk, what we do, we analyze the risk. So in qualitative risk assessment, what we do is that it is performing risk analysis to evaluate the likelihood and the impact. Okay, so how we measure it out, something which is called, we have in place, is called single loss expectancy. Quantitative risk assessment. So in quantitative risk assessment, what we do, we perform the risk analysis, right? The likelihood, the impact. That's it. So what we do have, we have the asset value and the exposure of the asset. Fine. That's we figure it out. That let's say for example, if there is a asset value, let's say for how to figure out the quantitative risk assessment, how to do that. Okay, there's a correct formula for that. For that, what we need to figure out the asset value. What is the value of the asset? Okay, let's say for example the value of the asset is 5 lakh rupees. 5 lakh. Okay, it is 5 lakh. It's, or let's say for example 5,000, right? Okay, so 5,000 is that asset value, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to multiply with the exposure factor. An exposure factor means is that how frequently it is going to come or the attack is going to happen. Let's say for example, I am in the part of the world where there is a high probability that once or every month there would be a ransomware attack, right? So my exposure factor would be 12 for a ransomware attack. My asset, my 5,000 is, so let's say for example uh, my laptop, let's say hypothetically. Okay, the cost of my laptop is 5,000 rupees, right? And there is a ransomware which, or every new ransomware or their probability that there would be some sort of a ransomware attack would be every month. So the I will multiply it by 12. Okay, that's what we have. We achieve something which is called single loss expectancy, right? The amount that would be lost in a single occurrence that we achieve through it. That's called SLE, single loss expectancy, right? It's a very interesting thing we have in place. So in this, what we'll be able to figure it out, we figure it out the damage to the asset that can happen. Fine. That's what we have in place. That's called single loss expectancy. And then is another one which is called annualized loss expectancy. In that means in a complete over the year, how many times, like what is the net value you are going to get, in the annualized loss expectancy, what are the total value you're going to lose. Okay, if the same attacks keep on happening, or how much you are going to lose at the end, that's called annualized loss expectancy. Okay, single loss expectancy, if I just break it down, revise once again, single loss expectancy means if the attack happens one single time, how much your asset value is going to go down. Okay, that's called single loss expectancy. If let's say for example, my cost of my server is 5,000 rupees, and there is an attack happens, right? So how much when on single ransomware attack, how much of my asset value decrease, that's called single loss expectancy. That I'm expecting single, that this is the expected loss, right? Okay, when there's a single attack. Annual loss expectancy means when this attack happens multiple times over a period of 1 year, how much is going to degrade further. That's called annualized loss expectancy. Okay, that's what we have in place. Fine. Okay. Then we have another one which is called the qualitative risk assessment. In qualitative risk assessment, what we have in place is that in qualitative risk assessment, we avoid the complexity of the quantitative risk approach, and we focus on identifying significant risk factors, right? So we have a metrics for that. In qualitative risk assessment, we do not rely upon the numbers, we rely upon the risk and the likelihood, right? And we have a metrics charge for that. That's called the qualitative risk assessment. Fine. Okay, perfect.